Welcome. I have with me Nicole Antolino. She is the community manager at Fireworks Coworking in Marietta,
Yeah,
Georgia. Yes. For some reason, I get Marietta and Alpharetta confused. Maybe it's just the Etta.
the
Although I,
Edda.
I did just read your newsletter. Are you behind the newsletter? Is that Courtney?
Mainly Courtney, but we all have a hand in it.
It's a group project. I can tell. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
newsletter. If anyone wants an
Yeah.
example of a very well done newsletter, this is the one, which makes sense because Sunny and Rob, gosh, sorry, I clearly need more coffee. Sunny and Rob own a marketing agency, so we
Yeah.
would expect them to have an excellent newsletter.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so excited to talk to you. So, a little behind the scenes, Gio sometimes steals my guests. He's in charge of recruiting guests for the Flex Uncensored podcast. And I remember he texted me, he's like, I got Nicole coming on. And I was like, oh, she's on my list, which is like long overdue because you've been in our community manager program for so long,
Yeah.
probably since you started in 2022. And now you could run the group. You can answer all the questions and often do answer many of them. So you've been on the list. So it's good because we did a GWA debrief on that episode. So if anybody wants to listen to that one, Nicole, this is Nicole's second podcast appearance. So wait, first tell me, why are you such a natural at podcast interviews?
I don't know because I was thinking about it all day. Like, what am I going to talk about? But I think I just try to stick to what I know and I just try to be genuine and honest because even if it's maybe I don't know, I don't know. I just have no problem not trying to put up a front or just saying
Yeah, I
I
love
don't
it.
know. I just try to be
You know
genuine.
what? That sounds so simple. And sometimes somebody booked a call to talk to me, and I was like, I said something to Gio about the call and he's like, well, just tell them the truth. And I was like,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's funny that you say that because I always tell people to think of it like we're having coffee. Like I'm not going to quiz you over coffee. We're just going to talk about things we both know about, which is
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
And I'm comfortable with you. If it was like someone else
Oh,
in the
okay.
industry that I didn't know very well,
Okay.
I'd be like,
Okay. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm glad, but you also seem very like maybe you were meant for, I don't know, some sort of, yeah, career on air.
no. Who
Anyway, okay,
knows?
so we met in Dallas, right?
Yeah. That was the first time in face to face.
Yeah, so
That was
good.
also 2022, the same year I
Oh, first year.
started.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like that fall.
Okay. I think that was the
Yeah.
first time I'd met Sunny and Rob too, because they were early startup school folks. And so I'd known them for a long time and I've never been to your location. I really wanted to go to the immersive so I could come to your location.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, everybody's here not to hear us chit chat about why you're so good on Zoom and podcasts. Okay, so you are the community manager. Tell us a little bit about the space and then we'll kind of get into how did you get here and we'll dive
Yeah.
into some of our coffee talk questions.
Yeah, so we're located in Marietta, which is a suburb of Atlanta. So we're very close to the city, but we're very much suburbia. But we're located in a walkable neighborhood, which is really unusual for Atlanta, broader Atlanta, because we have people that can walk to restaurants and coffee shops, kind of like an, an expanded New York City feel, I guess. So very walkable between living and working. So I think that's why we've attracted so many people. But our building itself is 10,000 square feet. We're not standalone. We're in like a business complex, but we have multiple parking spots, which is also a big issue for our area. Our little downtown area is called the Square, and parking is very difficult there, but it's a great place people want to be. A lot of co-working spaces have tried to land there, and ultimately, people don't like parking there or they get priced out
Interesting.
by a landlord or whatever it is. So we're just a mile off of the Square. And I actually used to live in this neighborhood too. I could walk to work. It took me 2 minutes. Sadly, we moved last year, but yeah, so we've been in business. Doors opened. I think construction started in 2018 and doors opened in 2019. And I'm the second community manager in history
I know
here.
you're a pre-pandemic space. So when
Yeah.
you started, the square footage was a little smaller, right? 7,500-ish, I think.
Well, I think if you have that, it's probably because our owners were also running their marketing agency here, and all of their staff was using a section of those offices. So it was really never part of our tours. They weren't, there was no turnover there. The staff was like, they were like an anchor in the
Mm-hmm.
company,
Yep.
essentially. And so over the years, that has changed significantly for our owners. They still have the marketing
Yeah.
agency, but now I'm selling all those offices, and it's
They're
all
like, why put employees at these desks when we could sell them?
exactly. So that's now it's all the square footage is for fireworks. And I think I mentioned in our emails that we're hoping to add 7 more offices this quarter.
So what will you lose when you put those offices in?
Are some of our dedicated desks. We call them workstations because they're a bit bigger than our dedicated desk.
Yep.
It's like a cubicle with filing cabinet and like a shared little shelf in between. And we are gonna essentially get rid of that offering in favor of some single person offices,
Okay.
which historically they just sell better
The
than the
offices.
workstation. Yeah.
So I love sort of like the executive desks for dedicated desks because I feel like that's a great way to differentiate and people feel
Yeah.
like it's really a home base, it's really theirs, but it's so difficult to know if they're going to sell or not sell.
Yeah.
And I feel like your market is so maybe a good fit for a dedicated desk. Like when you think about sort of the ideal customer profile, because
Yeah.
your primary customer, and I'm sort of diving into my questions now, is a creative person.
Yeah, it was like that at the beginning. It's funny, over the 4 years I've been here, we've attracted so many different industries. Like, as of late, I feel like everyone that comes in and tours is in software.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
like a year ago, or last year, we had a lot of demand from lawyers, whether it was offices or meeting rooms, not like a membership.
Okay.
And then for a time, we had like 3 or 4 accountants here too. So we're just taking whoever walks in the door, but it has shown us there are trends in certain industries, you know,
And
a
who's
lot of
looking
IT.
for, yeah, it's interesting. Do you think it's like a word of mouth thing or just to your point, like kind of these flows of different types of people looking for co-working?
I think there has been some word of mouth. In fact, one of our financial planners brought in a former colleague just today, but a lot of people still say that they find us on Google.
Okay. Yeah.
So Google is king for us. So that means that we have, I can't determine these trends. I can't even
Yeah.
control them. They're just coming to us.
They just happen. Although I mean, it's kind of interesting because I think because Sunny and Rob are run a creative agency,
Mm,
they, I think their ideal initial customer was someone in the creative field that would
yes,
maybe be part of their network and just like this
exactly.
natural extension, and maybe there would be work that gets, done. And I think that happened for a long
Yeah.
time. And I think it's interesting. I mean, since you have a hand in marketing, although I'd love to talk about your role and Courtney's role, and
Mhm.
you're doing the tours and you're really thinking about like how to talk about the space and who is the space for, and it sounds like you've kind of adjusted that as like the people there have adjusted.
Mhm.
You still have the like sort of multi-purpose like workshop studio space.
Well, yeah. So I'm kind of sitting in that room probably.
Okay. Yep, I bet
So,
you are.
we've done a lot. This is mainly it's a conference room now, but it's set up in a way that it is conducive to any need. It's not set up for like a all day meeting at the computer. It's set up for collaboration. Things are on wheels. They can be moved around. We've had photography in here. We've had filming in here. And at different times over the years, we've had like designated areas in the office that can accommodate professional photography, but it's been taken up for other uses. We tried to partner with a studio offsite, in our area nearby, didn't get a ton of traction on that. And so we call it the fishbowl because there's glass, walls you can walk by, like, there goes Sunny actually walking by and you can see right in. But it does have curtains. So we did headshots in here recently and member testimonials, and we can just
Oh, nice.
close up the curtains and move it all around. It does have a lot of lighting options in here, but people can still, there's enough space to bring in.
Yep.
Yeah, additional. Yep, there it is.
For anybody watching on YouTube, I put it up because it is well, so I mean, any idea what your utilization is on this room? Like how often it gets used?
Oh, yeah. Not off the top of my head. I was just looking at that for a different room the other day, but, I think on a whole, like the utilization for our rooms, and this was like a topic that maybe we could explore, but I think it's like 30% for our rooms, and we're like, gosh, that's so low. And so we were kind of digging into that, like, because we see the trends in meeting rooms too. At the end of the year, there's a push for people to get work
Mhm.
done.
Yep.
Summer it slows down, but then a lot of schools come to us and they want to do their team meetings here, like for a 2-day,
Oh,
all day meeting.
interesting. Okay.
But, we were just talking about it on our team, and it's like, you know what? The utilization in other spaces are similar to this. So maybe this is an industry-wide thing, but, there's plenty for our members especially, it's 24/7 access, but for guests, it's 40 hours a week, and it's,
Yep.
I was able to just hop in here. So that's definitely something, we keep in mind a lot is like, how can we drive up meeting room
Drive
revenue?
utilization. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think creative rooms like this have become more in demand to your point. So I love that you
Yeah.
have it. But I think, yes, everybody who has one is like, well, right. If could it be better utilized as something else, but it also may be part of the draw and how you attract people into the space.
Mhm.
So 30% is industry standard.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we did a training on this, I think in November. Well, but I included it in our we did a benchmark presentation about industry benchmarks. We might have talked about it in our pricing training in November, but yeah, that has been the number for a long time. You guys are not on Flex Space. Is your book now on, yeah, Office R&D?
Yeah. We're on,
Flex.
like, some other aggregators, Liquid
Yep.
Space, Pass,
Ooh, Flickr's getting some
Workspace.
usage. Yeah,
Yeah.
FlexSpace.ai had shared this at the fall conference that they see across the board 30%. And part of their offering is dynamic pricing if you
Oh,
turn it
right. Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they can see, they said to a point, if you lower the price, you will get higher utilization.
right.
Um, but and then I think the challenge with the 40 hours is that people just aren't meeting as much on Monday and Friday. But
Yeah.
so it's like really
Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But 30% is totally normal. So I think operators just have to be really strategic about how many meeting rooms they have. It's like you have to find that real sweet spot where it makes sense and it's not better to have a meeting room as an office. But you need to have them for your members and they can drive revenue. But yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
always
Because then
looking.
we start getting more bookings, and then the members start coming and saying,
I can't get what I
I haven't been
need.
able to
Yes.
get my meeting rooms,
Hmm.
So
Totally. Yep.
catch
So,
20.
okay, let's back up. How did you get into co-working? Tell us your story
Yeah.
and a little bit about what you did before co-working.
Yeah. So before I got into co-working, I had like an interesting professional career. I started out in college. I was working at the Breakers Hotel, which is a huge hotel in Palm Beach Island. I was planning events at my college down there. And then I started in the insurance industry and started a career for that for about 12 years. And I did everything from sales, customer service, underwriting. It was stressful. And then my family and I were thinking about making a change. We were living in Florida at the time, and Rob is my uncle, and he approached me about coming to work at Fireworks, and did I wanna move back home? And I had always said, "I'll never move back to Atlanta. I would like to be closer to my family than 10-hour drive, but I'll never move back to Atlanta." And it's funny, I actually talked to someone in co-working, and I was like, "Do you think, a person with a young family," because at the time my son was in kindergarten, "can run, this new co-working space, with a family?" And they told me, "No, I don't think
Oh,
I think it's gonna be hard for you." And so here I am.
no.
But at the time, it was just gonna be me, and Courtney was not yet,
Mhm.
on the team officially full time. And so, anyways, made the jump. We moved back home, and then they decided to have Courtney come on as a coordinator position, and she was, like, supporting, you know, the space and handling, our events and stuff, and that was 4 years ago this January. So, yeah.
So, what would you tell someone who asked you that same question now that you've been through it?
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they said that at the time because they had run the space by themselves, from construction to the beginning. And so maybe at that season that was a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's the case. I think it depends. I've been able to have a good work-life balance, but I also think that's because, you know, who I report to is very understanding of working moms, and so, I have been able to still leave work at home, Of course, like, I still get calls and random text messages from all kinds of vendors and members, at any given hour, but I felt like it, especially now 4 years into it, I can I feel good about it, like, plus having Courtney, like, is obviously a huge factor as well. If I was truly by myself, I think I would just be more stressed out, but I would be handling it,
Yeah.
And there are days when she hasn't been here and it's been like, someone asked me to get help and then the doorbell rings and two different people are there and they want different things and, just do the best I can.
Yeah.
I always tell them like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like it's just me. Like hang tight. Let me finish up with them. I'll be right back."
I when I used to interview community managers, and I do for people sometimes, I haven't asked this question in a long time, but I used to have an interview question that was basically, okay, the printer's jammed, a tour has shown up, and the coffee grinder breaks. Like, what do you do first? Because I do think that's one of the biggest challenges of the roles. It's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that needs my attention at the same
Yeah.
time. How do I, stay calm and, keep moving and keep a smile and not get too stressed. Yeah.
Oh, totally. The smile is everything because then people are like usually a little bit more gracious to you too,
Yeah.
and they're willing to wait.
I also think for anyone listening thinking about this question, it's really also about the tone and the culture that you set. Like, if you start an expectation that you're gonna respond to, Slack messages from members at all hours of the evening, then
Right.
they will get used to that. But if you draw a
Yes.
line and say, "Look, here's, we have an inbox or a, Slack channel, whatever it is, and I
Yeah.
will it'll get my attention in the morning when I come back to
Right.
work."
Yep.
Even lead management, I think lead management is probably the most tempting thing because you feel so much ownership over getting people booked for a tour, et cetera. And
Mhm.
I think we talked a little bit about this probably on the podcast with Geo, but AI and automated, responses, I think are
Mhm.
really helping with that with the role too. I don't know if you guys have, kind of implemented any of that yet, but
No, we have, like, some auto responses set up if they call or text us after hours, just so that it says, like, "Hey, we're not open,"
yeah,
because some people, like, "Hey,
somehow assume.
I'm at the
Yeah.
door. Are y'all open? Like, can I just wanna pop in for a tour?" And I'm like,
Totally.
but haven't done any of that yet on the website, but sure it's coming.
So how do you and Courtney divide and conquer?
Yeah, so that's definitely changed quite a bit. So last year, she started going out more into the community and trying to work on partnerships with businesses and partnerships for our members where, they can get benefits somewhere and, those customers can come here, for a discounted rate or something like that. And trying to establish where we can start hosting public events, evening networking things like that. So that has taken her outside of the building more than in previous years. So I pretty much am like the captain of the ship here during the week. And so she kind of has her things to focus on. She still does member events, which, you need to be here for, of course. So, and we're about a year into this our new not role, well, her new role, and then just us adjusting with just, me kind of manning everything. And so I feel like we finally are, in a good groove and so yeah, I pretty much tell new members like I'm their go-to person, but I introduce them to Courtney and she doesn't sit behind a closed door. So she's still out in the open. So people still come to her, and for them we've tried to make it so that it's kind of they don't know what the changes were on the inside of our team. Like
Yeah.
they can still go to her, if the printer's jammed or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just by her nature, she's always willing to help. So members don't really notice. It's just been more of like, okay, I'm doing more of this now and she's doing something different.
Yeah. Is she full time?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So the two of you are full time. Yeah, I ask because I think so many owners like really struggle with, sort of how do you it sounds like at some point you guys made a decision that, well, we have inbound leads and also we need to get out into the community and create some
Yeah.
opportunity and I think sometimes there aren't the resources for that or the person like when you have one person, it would be very difficult for you to just leave the space for a couple hours at a time. So having
Yeah.
someone or it might not be the same profile, the person who's managing the space may not wanna be the one who, is running around and going to events and setting up partnerships, like, that's a different, probably kind of role and skill set. So, the fact that you can kinda divide and conquer in that way seems like you're trying to kind of, yeah, set up, like, what works best for each person. Does she cover for you when, kid's sick or school's closed
Yeah.
or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, she would be the first person that, I would go to if something came up and I couldn't come in or, permits me to go out of town, whenever I want. So before I was here and it was just Hannah, I know that they had to hire someone, which ended up sometimes being Courtney to come fill in for her. And that's just not practical every time,
yeah.
because you don't know if that person's going to be available. Um,
Totally. Yep.
but
But it's a challenge. If you're at a
yeah,
certain size, 10,000 feet is great because you're kind of just over that, like one person. And it sounds like you're also, Courtney's somewhat driving revenue with events. She's, trying to monetize events. And
right, right.
so, yeah, it can be hard when you're at a certain size and you just don't have the resources to do that second team member.
Yeah. I think I don't want to speak for Sunny, but I think that the idea was we want to expand to a second location, right? But they want to make it have a little bit more offerings to the community. So it would look a little different than Fireworks, but it would still be co-working, but it would have all these other things too. And then when we didn't quite find the real estate for that, or, that's really been the biggest thing, is just finding the right real
Yep.
estate in an area that we want to be in, that we feel like we can attract a
Yeah.
similar customer. When that didn't happen, it's like, okay, well, we have to figure out how we can grow where we're at. So, that's making the decision to, build more micro offices and do away with one of the memberships, and, still working on brand awareness because we're less than a 10-year-old company,
Mm-hmm.
and there's constantly really cool businesses and restaurants popping up that aren't chains, that we've been able to befriend, and at the very least use them for catering on a regular basis for our meetings here. So it's like we're trying to grow where we are until we can take that next step.
Yep. I love that mindset. Yeah, I get the sense, and I've gotten that, I mean, from talking to your team before, that you have a pretty unique location. Like, you're close to downtown, but you have, parking, and but you're still
Yeah.
walkable. And I'm just
Yeah.
looking at the map, like, you don't have like really direct competition very close by, which is
Right.
also, a blessing and unique. So probably
Mhm.
trying to replicate that. And I know Sunny and Rob are really intentional about that and really wanting to get it right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like location, location, location.
Mhm.
And, I also just want to mention, kind of separate from our talk about community management, but they own the building. And so
Yes.
investing in the business by adding offices, because some people would say, well, it doesn't make sense. It's a, substantial investment. The payback takes too long, but they own the building. And so it makes sense. And
Yeah.
even if someday they were to sell the business, the value would be there for them likely. So,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. So hold on, I'm going to grab lost my questions here.
I think I have it here.
Oh, I know. Oh, there we go. I have too many Google Docs open. Oh, we just talked about dividing and
Yeah.
conquering.
We've kind of
Yeah,
talked about a lot of them,
I
actually.
know. We're cruising through these. So I am curious. So you and Courtney have kind of divided your roles, and she's maybe just more externally
Mhm.
focused, and focused on new initiatives and adding, monetizable events. So you are managing the space, and you are kind of, again, besides the hats that Courtney is wearing,
Mhm.
wearing a lot of hats.
Mhm.
How so I'll start with, what do you think it takes to do what you do successfully and be a great community manager?
Yeah. Well, obviously multitasking, that goes without saying. But I think also there's been times where, because this is the business of flexibility, I have had to determine when to extend additional flexibility or when to like stand firm on kind of like our policies and procedures, and a little bit more black and white, because I want people to be here, and I'm happy to go the extra mile, and I think that's what makes people coming back to us. But I also want to set an expectation, like, kind of like, these are our parameters, and if, you know, someone, I guess, comes in and, maybe they're trying to take advantage of it, it's like knowing when to extend that flexibility, or kind of to draw the hard line so that everyone's happy, like, I'm not, putting Courtney or myself here past 6 o'clock because, we are trying to be nice and not kick someone out at 5 o'clock, or,
Right.
or, you know, we have a staffing fee for coming early and staying late, and some people, kind of bucket that, but I don't know if those are the best examples. But, what I'm trying to say, like, sometimes I think the flexibility, is needed, absolutely, but just
Yeah.
knowing when to not, or when it's needed, and when you can kind of stand your ground on, this is how we do things here. And people seem to respect that, I hope.
Yeah.
but also just letting go of like your to-do list, because I'm constantly chasing some kind of vendor or contractor for the building for something because a lot of those things you don't get quick turnaround for, but
Mhm.
then and following up on tours and leads and emails and stuff, but if something happens in the space, it's going to take a significant amount of time and then that just pushes everything back. And I think, I'm a zero inbox kind of person, which I don't know if that's common in this industry or not, but that can really kind of like affect my mindset coming into the next day if it's like, "Oh man, I left a train wreck behind because I got sidetracked yesterday." And it's just like, "Well, it's okay." Like some of this stuff is like would be nice to get done, but it's not a need to get done emergency at the moment. And so it's kind of like a little mental talk to myself, like what actually needs to get done today. It looks like I have a lot, but then just figuring out, priority because you're always going to get pulled away in this job. So flexibility, again, that word, but
Totally. Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
I think there are a lot of personalities that can be successful in the role. I think, yeah, you hit on some of the challenges. Like, you have to be comfortable with unexpected things happening and also kind of have the focus to get back to what you were doing
Yes.
before. I mean,
Yeah.
lead management's a great example. Like, well, when there are, fires in the space and you're kind of running around and then it's time to go home and then, there are leads sitting in the inbox and you come back in the morning and you still have to do all the things, it it can be a lot to figure out how to prioritize and, being able to kind of figure that out and do your best and manage the sort of the mental load that comes with doing that. You have to have the right person who
Yeah.
can do that. The inbox zero is an interesting quality. I almost kind of want to add that to my list of like, like screening questions.
Yeah, and what does your inbox look like?
I would never get hired. I'll just say that.
I mean, I've always been like that though since, you know, I've been a professional, I
Yeah.
guess, and
It's an excellent quality. It's an
it's,
excellent quality. That,
yeah,
and I always want to test people, like, if you walk by a sofa and the pillows are, askew, do you have to stop and zhuzh them? I would
yeah,
like a zhuzher. But so I think it's interesting. You seem, kind of like a unicorn. That's what I call the people who are like, well, you're doing everything. You're like member facing, but you're managing leads. You can put out a fire. You probably are the one who calls, like, if the elevator, well, maybe you don't have an elevator, something, right?
yeah,
But you said something's broken in the space and you're kind of wearing all the hats, and it's not
yeah,
super typical it's not that easy to find somebody who can do all these things. So everybody listening who has hired a community manager is, sometimes you win and sometimes you get people who are better at some things than others.
yeah,
Which is, again, like, because you have Courtney, you guys could choose to sort of divide and conquer somewhat differently if you weren't so strong at doing all the things.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
there's been times, like, if it's a tech issue, I always go in first, and then if I'm like, "I've done everything," I'm like, "Courtney, help,"
calling for
because
backup.
that's her strength over mine, so they usually come to me first, and then if I can't figure it out, I know that she can.
Totally. I
So,
mean, the that's another great example, like being willing to sort of try to figure those out. So I'm curious because I've been thinking a lot about this question when it comes to recruiting community managers. What do you think about the title of the role?
yeah, that's a good question because there sometimes is a lot of time where I can't spend on the community, and it gets taken away by admin and, mail. I do all of our mail. We have like 200 clients, and sometimes I'm sorting a lot of mail. But any interruption in my day where someone is just wanting to talk here is like, it's Sunny is never going to say you need to get back and look at that email I sent you, because it's like part of the job. So it's like after years of doing this, it's like I know that if I have a moment, if I'm like, I need to get up from the screen, then I get up and try to find someone to talk to, or like, you know, obviously. So like, what'd you get up to this weekend? Or, how's your kid? I remember you saying they were sick or something like that. So that's always like part of it. What was the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, I no, you're totally answering it. The question was just, what do you think of the title of the role? Because you're wearing so many
Yeah.
hats. And
Yeah.
sometimes that community manager element of it
Yes.
can be, yes, diminished by all the other
Thank you.
requirements
Yeah.
and hard
Yeah.
to balance. Like, well, that's my title, but how
Right.
am I spending my day?
Yes. I know sometimes it is like you kind of feel like housekeeper
Yeah.
too. Like you're just because you want to make the, but it's important too. But when you're unloading the dishwasher, 4 times a day and picking up, remnants of trash left on the ground, it's like I'm the only one that notices it and I'm gonna get it, because I could have a tour come in and what is the impression gonna be on them?
Mhm. Yep.
And that's something I remember from working at the Breakers Hotel, which you gotta Google it if you don't know what I'm talking
Okay.
about. It's like well renowned in that area, but they would tell us, like, "If you see trash on the ground, like, take some pride and pick it up,"
Yeah.
And and they had a lot more theology behind that of, but it was, like, just taking care and ownership of where you're working, and it makes a small little impact makes a big deal in the space as a whole. Oh, yeah.
It's very fancy. It looks nice. I totally wanna go.
Yeah, like, celebrities go there, and one time I
It's
worked
look
for
at that. Oh my
Susan
god. Wow.
Lucci, the soap opera star, like, walked by me, and I was like, "That's Susan Lucci."
Susan, that's
Um,
crazy.
they have, like, a bar with it's like a fish tank. The bar is a fish tank. I think it's just called the Fish Bar,
Oh,
but
I can't find a photo of
yeah,
the fish bar, but it's a beautiful hotel.
it's
Do
a
you, so you if you were gonna hire a community manager, what kind of background would you look for?
yeah, I think definitely any customer service driven, and that could be in any field. So, I'm not gonna necessarily look for someone in an industry. I would have to read in their resume to see, like, were they was it customer service skills? Because I have a insurance, hospitality background, and I did some retail too, but it was over the whole of the career, that's, like, what it's been to get me prepared for this role. And so I feel like that can look any way in any job, but if you are striving to have an experience for a customer, then you can translate well into this role because everything else is very teachable, I feel like, but ultimately, it's about the customer's experience, the member experience. So I would just be looking at like the actual skills, not necessarily the role or the field that they were in.
Yeah, I know it's funny. I looked at when I saw your insurance, I was like, "Huh, that's an interesting background." But you're right, have all these nuggets and sales and customer service and event planning. I'm curious, so you guys are a local space focused on the community. How do you kind of set the tone? Like I get the sense you're very friendly with your members, you know them, you know who they are. And that's a specific mindset, probably set by Sunny and Rob, and probably also naturally kind of how you operate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when a member joins, like, what is the process you go through to kinda try to get to know them and make them feel welcome?
Yeah. Well, I've changed it, tweaked it a little bit this past year because I spend more time with them, walking them around. So I almost give them like a second tour because I want them to know where the ibuprofen is, where the Tums is, how you can go through the back tunnel to the lunch space because I think at first it felt like, oh, well, I've already given them the tour. I want to be mindful of their time. But then people would come to me later and like, do where's this back door? Like, where's the cafe? Like, do y'all have ibuprofen? And now it's like they know where everything is. So I'd rather spend the more time making them feel comfortable. I just try to think, what questions have I been seeing after onboarding that I can address now to avoid that, to kind of like just, make them feel that they know where everything is, and not to discourage them from asking questions. But I'm thinking if it was me, like at first I might be a little hesitant to just bombard them with questions
Hmm.
right away, like, oh, I can figure it out myself. But it's like, if you really have a bad headache and you don't have anything on you, don't you want to just be able to go and grab it? So I kind of extended the onboarding time a little bit when it allows. Obviously, some people are like, I gotta go now. Like, I don't have time for this. But
Yeah. And how
yeah.
personal do you get with members off the bat?
So oftentimes I find out where their kids go to school, and that is an easy thing for me to connect to because, I have my husband's a teacher at a local school. And
Oh, I didn't know he was a
yeah,
teacher. That's fun.
yeah, seventh graders.
Oh
And
my god. Hats off to
everyone,
anyone who teaches middle schoolers.
I know.
Your
I
kid
get that
wait.
reaction all the time, and I
Oh,
I know he does too. But because we live in this area, I have some sort of point of reference,
yeah.
where either a lot of times tours, they go to the same school that my son and my husband are at, so that's a great starting point. Or just the fact that I think I have a family, because this is a family-friendly neighborhood, so
Yeah.
a lot of people coming in have young kids or school-aged kids. So that does give me a leg up on being able to connect with them for sure. And then obviously we talk about their job, and sometimes it's like, I don't know what it is that you do, and, like, "Wait,
Tell me
what?
more
What's that?"
about that. Yeah.
But yeah, I kinda but I try to read the room. Like, if they are more on the private side and they
Yeah.
wanna keep their personal life separate, like, and they just need to know the facts, then you just gotta keep it short and sweet.
Yeah. Totally. No, I love that. I remember this is such a funny, like, little thing, but I remember Hannah saying, "You have a popcorn maker?"
Yeah.
She would sit in the kitchen area, make some like, on a Friday, make some popcorn, sit with her laptop, and she said, "I just wait for people to wander by and then chit chat with them."
Oh,
And I was
yeah,
like,
the
"What
smell
is"
brings them.
right! I was like, "What a simple, like, inexpensive, but, like, just total delight to have that in the space. That's really fun."
Yeah,
Wait,
it is.
I was gonna post this to our community manager group. For Christmas, I got us do you know the Ninja Creamy ice cream makers?
Oh, yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
of it.
well, they now have one that makes soft serve.
Oh,
It is
yum.
the best machine ever. I am so obsessed with this machine. So I'm obsessed with soft serve. Like my first
Yeah.
like real job was at an ice cream shop, and I don't know what it is, but I just love soft serve. And you can't get it. I think it's like really an East Coast, maybe even like Northeast kind of thing. Like it's hard to find.
We have it around here, but
Okay. Yeah,
it's
if I wanted to go get soft serve, not possible. And this machine works so well. And I was like, oh my God, every co-working space needs one of
needs
these
one.
because it is just a pure delight. I mean, you just pull the handle and the soft serve comes out just like, at an ice cream shop. It's so good. You
Oh
have to
gosh.
make it, of course, but it's really easy to
Yeah.
make and you could make a whole bunch of them and then anyway, kind of
So
like the popcorn
expensive.
maker, like an
Yeah.
easy delighter.
Sonny got us a Ninja blender because one summer he really wanted to make like blended iced coffees. And
Ooh.
so, I mean, it's a huge blender.
Yeah.
So now it
And is it
just,
loud?
I mean, yeah, it's like a blender,
Yeah.
but and we leave it out, and we had one member make smoothies one time.
nice.
Like, for himself, he would just bring his own stuff because it's sitting there, so,
Totally. Love
as
it.
long as you
Yeah.
clean up yourself and don't break it, like, have
Yep.
at it. So, I can totally see the team being like, "We need to do the ice cream."
You might need to. I will say it is a big machine and it is quite loud when it's processing. We put ours in a cabinet and that helps a lot, like sort of
Yeah.
muffle the sound. Anyway,
Yeah.
total tangent, but I love the popcorn machine idea. And my new one
Yes.
is
So
soft
fun.
serve ice cream. Okay. Then okay, Nicole, my final question is you've been doing this role for a while. What helps you with the longevity? Like, what keeps you excited about the role every day? Assuming you're excited about the role every day.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I'm my personality is task oriented and relational. Those are probably the two things that like define, what kind of makes me sing inside as a person, professionally and personally. And so there is so much of that to go around here. I can always feel accomplished because this is the community manager role. I have developed such great relationships with a majority of my members that I know their spouse's name, their kid's name, I know their hobbies, and so the feeling of knowing someone and being known is so valuable that it's not just like a place of strangers or distant acquaintances. I don't really feel like any of our members are really acquaintances. And so that to me is worth coming here for because it's when you get a good group in, it is just like all is right in the world, and we know that that can change over time. People come and go, and it's always sad when you're not supposed to have favorites, but when your favorites leave, it's sad. And they don't always get to really come back, even though they say that they do, they will come back. But then there's always new people coming in that really do kind of fill that hole from the previous member. And so for me, that is worthwhile because if I couldn't like express myself, you know, in that way professionally, then it would just be like, task, 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 task. And as much as that does give me in a sense of accomplishment, getting that inbox cleared or whatever it is, the relational aspect is really key for me too.
Okay, you
So,
said so many beautiful things in that answer.
did
I
I?
so you totally did. I mean, the couple things I want to highlight. You said it's a place to like know and be known, and I think that's everything.
Yeah.
And I think there are spaces who miss that. It's not sort of at the core, like why they're there. And maybe that's sort of the owner's sort of mentality and culture that happens, and where they hire the wrong community manager.
Yeah.
And so then I'm going to like your comment about like being task oriented, but also really, getting your joy from the relational component is like perfect, right, for this role because it's such the balance of those
Yeah.
two things. And so to match someone like you in that role and for your sort of, you know, creating that feeling of, being of what did you say? Seeing and being seen or knowing and being known. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly how you said it, but
Yeah.
like that's so critical to, like, human happiness, I
Yeah.
think. It's, like, the core, but
Yeah.
it's actually, like, not that common, I think, that gets necessarily created, so
Yeah.
it's really special.
Yeah. I think just in the years of work, it's like I just stopped wanting to go, you know, "Hey, how was your weekend?" And kinda just leave it at that, and that of course, like, that's an easy way to just acknowledge somebody, like, "Did you have a good weekend?" But after a while, it was like, well, you know, tell me about, like, your family or, they express like, "Oh, I'm just so frustrated. I was late with my kid," or whatever. My kid was up all night. It's like, "Oh, yeah. Like, I remember those days," or something like that. Like, I just, the small talk had to go at
Yeah.
some point, you know, and get just to figure out people's life if, and thankfully, there's a lot of people here that I think respond to that too and open up. So kudos to them too, because I can be like this all day. And this is how I am at home. This is how I am at work. But if you're not like that and you don't want that, then, or that's not easy for you, then, it wouldn't really work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
members have to buy into that too.
Yeah. Or enough of them, to your point.
Right.
Yeah.
Enough of them. Exactly. There's
Mhm.
definitely not 100%.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yep.
paint a picture that like we're in La La Land or,
Yeah. Well, I mean, every human is a snowflake. I have a husband
yeah.
he's an Enneagram 5 and he loves working from home. And he would be that person who's like friendly probably to a point and then
Yeah.
unless you want to talk about sports statistics with him and then he would talk to you all day long.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, I'll let you go because I also know. So wait, one final really quick question.
Yes.
How do you manage when you're away from the desk? Like community manager university calls or this type of thing? We've
Yeah.
taken like an hour out of your day. Do you put up a sign? Do you
Sometimes it depends how long I think I'll be gone. This was on the calendar, so like Courtney and Sunny knew I was gonna have that chunk away. And since we've sat here, I saw the doorbell ring, one of them got up. So if it's longer periods, I might tell a few people. I do have a sign that I put up. It has a number that goes right back to my phone anyways.
which is
So
sitting next to you? Yeah.
yes. So, but we just have such a good flow here, and anything that like maybe we forgot to account for, like, we just do our best and uh, it seems to just work in our favor, thankfully, somehow.
Well, and I think that goes back to investing in the relationships that you have. Then it's more of a little bit more of a give and take and an understanding and a benefit of the doubt, just like every other
Yeah.
relationship. So,
Yeah.
okay, anyway, I need to let you go, get back to the desk. Thank you to Sunny and Courtney, and thank you for taking the time to do this and share your thoughts and your
Yes.
story.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Good to see ya.